and residents in the city. They had been shutting off water for years, but nowhere on this scale.
Welcome, beloved community. We are back again with yet another installment of the People's Water Board Coalition's Water Wednesdays webcast. And as always, I am here with my beloved co-host, Valerie Jean.
Hi, everyone.
And we can never forget our behind-the-scenes tech guru extraordinaire that keeps us running consistently and smoothly week after week. She is simply marvelous, Miss Angelica. And today we have a hot topic show, and we have a couple of major things to get the information out to you about. And we also have some updates and some information that is a little bit of a Debbie Downer, but it's something that you definitely need to have on your radar and be aware of so that you can do your part if it's nothing as simple as boycotting these products or being aware of these products and not purchasing them, contacting the company, making complaints, whatever you can do. We need you to get involved in this. And with that being said,
both
it's a
of the
short
subjects
show.
that we're talking about today, I mean, these are boots on the ground moments for people, right?
Yeah.
It's really, we're really under attack by this administration. First, you know, we talk about Line 5 a lot on this show, and there's a reason for it. Because every Michigander knows about Line 5, because there's a movement that's been growing for the last 15 years to shut down Line 5.
Yeah.
Recently, legislation has been introduced by 3 Michigan lawmakers to protect Line 5. Literally, it's called the Line 5 Act. Everybody should Google it, look it up, but And they're telling lies about this. If you Google it and it comes up. So it was on June 17th when it was introduced. And it says they're protecting Michiganders to provide low-cost energy to Michigan residents. First of all, Enbridge Line 5 carries tar sands. The lies that they tell. Enbridge Line 5 carries tar sands, right? And most of it gets distributed throughout the rest of the world. It does not help Michigan stay warm in any way. Those are absolute lies that they're telling.
Absolutely.
And they're telling them so that they can actually pass a law so that the Trump administration, all these stuff that they're implementing, another governor can't overturn it. They won't be able to overturn it, right? So they're calling it a vital source of energy, and it's a low cost energy. Do you know what it costs to refine tar sands? You know what I mean? Like, there's no low cost when it comes to tar sands. It's a high cost to refine it. It's a high cost to the water because it uses up so much water and it contaminates it. And it's a high cost to the environment. So there's no low cost energy when it comes to Enbridge Line 5 that's important or imperative for Michigan residents. It's absolutely not. So that's the situation with Line 5 Act. Everybody needs to look it up. It's been introduced. It's not too late. People can call their representatives. They can organize protests. They can put together community meetings. We are not voiceless in this fight. It is a long-running fight. And Enbridge has to see all of us in this moment. The Trump administration needs to see all of us in this moment saying, you can't sacrifice our water for corporations anymore. And you're not going to give them a free pass to do whatever they want to the environment.
Absolutely. I mean, just from the smallest area to the largest, we can make our presence known. We see how, look in California, look how even from Governor Newsom on down to the just average everyday resident, they stated their claim about how they felt against immigration.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are the moments where we have to be gathering together and really looking out for each other and making our voices very, very loud. Our boots in the street. Our voices very, very loud. Organize those community meetings. Organize those direct actions. Organize people going up and having call campaigns to their Michigan legislators. There is no way that Michigan any resident in Michigan wants this. It's not, you know what I mean? So if the lawmakers voted in, they are voting against life itself. They're voting against what
Absolutely.
the voters want. If they pass this Line 5 Act, and it's crazy to call
With
it
the
Line 5
damage to the water, again, I would mention to our viewers that Michigan, just Michigan, the tri-state area or anything, Michigan has 21% of the entire world's fresh water, which is right where the Line 5 pipeline is going under.
Yep, it runs right straight through the Straits of Mackinac and through 70 different tributaries throughout Michigan
Absolutely.
until it gets to the Marathon refinery and then ends up in Sarnia. So it's like there's it, and the lies that they tell that people need it are absolute lies. The
Absolutely.
majority of it, literally the majority of it goes to making bottled water. Literally
The
the
bottles,
bottles.
yeah.
The bottles. So there's not,
Makes you wonder how we go into the next story if they're not
yeah.
connected as well.
Stay tuned. Right, right. I do want, before we go on to the next story, I do want to invite people again. Every year about this time, me and Nicole start inviting folks up
Yes.
north for the Water is Life Festival and the Pipe Out Paddle Up. All of it is focused on getting community together and getting people together so that we can fight against Line 5 and get it shut down permanently. They're trying to put a
Absolutely.
tunnel around it. We've talked about that on prior shows, and they're just really trying to keep it going. And it should have been decommissioned years and years and years ago. It was never, ever meant to stay online this long or forever. It was never meant. So we're inviting folks to come and hang out with us. The People's Water Board contributes and organizes every single year to get people in Mackinac so that we can all gather and mobilize and really make our voices heard. Everybody start making those plans. All that information about the Water Weekend will be on all of our PWBC social media pages so that you can plug in that way. Get ready. We're hoping to see you in Mackinac Labor Day weekend.
Amen.
And then we were talking about what Line 5 is used for, right? To make plastic water bottles, most of it, literally. So that's a good segue into what you want to talk about. I mean, a monster corporation, right? A monster bottled
Humongous
water corporation.
International corporation. And I have banned it.
Remember, it was the CEO of Nestle. While you're starting, everybody has to remember it was the CEO of Nestle who said,
Yes.
actually, water isn't a human right.
Yes.
It's never been a
Let's
human
not
right.
forget
We
that.
commodified it, right?
The chief
Start with that
executive
basis.
officer of Nestle stated in a hearing that water was not an inalienable human right, that no one had a right to water. Basically saying that water could be privatized and commodified. And if you can't afford to get it, then, oh, well, you don't have a right to it. And
Yep.
with that being said, we want to talk about Nestle, who, by the way, has now changed their name locally to Blue Triton. But
Because they're such a horrible company.
But that's just to cover up their nefarious schemes and tactics that they've used, because they're still Nestle and they still sell everything that they sold prior to being Blue Triton. So currently they have a couple of lawsuits going on, and they also have a investigation into some of their waters. And I know this is probably going to hurt a lot of our viewers because they're going to immediately know some of these brands, especially those of us who think we're drinking high-end water. So to start off, here are a few of the brands that we would prefer for people not to utilize in order to support. It's something you can do that's very small to support
these lawsuits.
Going against Nestle and support these lawsuits. Please don't drink Poland Spring bottled water, Deer Park bottled water, Ozarka bottled water, Ice Mountain, Arrowhead bottled water, Zephyr Hills, and of course, the big one that lists the entire name, Nestle Pure Life. These, by not supporting, purchasing, or drinking these brands of water, that's a small step you can take to fight against Nestle, aka Blue Triton.
Some people have to use, we understand that some people have to use bottled water, that they live in
We
places where
understand
they
that.
absolutely have no choice, you know, but at this point in time, if you can boycott all of those Nestle brands, it's
Yeah.
really important to support these lawsuits, because corporations like this, they never get held accountable. Never.
They don't.
Yeah.
And also, if you're in a predicament where you have no other choice but to drink bottled water and you're low income, especially, purchasing the quote unquote off brands, you're going to come out cheaper anyway. Like Great Values or, Kirkland brand or something
Right.
like that. These are also the brands that during things like the Flint water crisis and during the pandemic, they skyrocketed and shot up their prices to make it simply unaffordable for people to have access to clean, safe drinking water. Some of the international brands,
Corporations are monsters.
they are, which surprised me because I wasn't aware that Nestle owned these. Perrier, San Pellegrino, and Aquapana. Those are three of the international
Those are all considered high end, right?
high-end drinking water. San Pellegrino is even sometimes sold as a sparkling water. So we would like you to do that. And here's a few more details on some of their lawsuits. But before I go into the major bottled water lawsuit, I just want to give you a quick synopsis on how devious and malicious Nestle, aka Blue Triton, is. Because Nestle is still the
Because
parent
part of this
company.
lawsuit is about child labor, isn't it?
Yes. So one of the lawsuits they have going is for their chocolate subsidiary of Nestle. So ban the Nestle Crunches and the Nestle chocolate as well. There's a child labor lawsuit currently going where they have, and mind you, these child labor children that they're enslaving for this child labor lawsuit are low income working families with children of color. So the child labor lawsuit says that 8 former child slaves, I want you to let that sink in, not child actors who making millions of dollars, child slaves from Mali, which is on the continent of Africa, filed a lawsuit against Nestle and some of their other companies, alleging that they aided and abetted their enslavement on cocoa plantations along the Ivory Coast. So not only are they enslaving poor African children to pick cocoa so you can have a nice Nestle Crunch bar, they're also ravaging and pretty much pillaging the African coast. They're going for their natural resources, as they always do.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court has dismissed the first lawsuit in June of 2021, ruling that the alleged conduct occurred outside of the United States. So the U.S. Supreme Court feels they shouldn't rule on it. And therefore, American laws like the Allen Tort statute could not be applied extranationally. So the court also addressed that the issue of corporate liability under the Allen Tort statute. So here's the thing that bothers me about this lawsuit. The Supreme Court is saying they don't feel they should rule on it because it was occurred outside the U.S. I understand that. But yet you're using U.S. statutes and torts to fight against this lawsuit being filed. You can't use the United States when it's beneficial, but say, okay, as a U.S., as them not occurring in the U.S., we don't have jurisdiction. If you don't have jurisdiction, your laws don't apply on either
The U.S.
side.
has long protected Nestle.
Yes, your laws don't apply on either side. I'm looking at you, Supreme Court judges. I'm looking at you.
That's right.
The court also addressed the issue. The Supreme Court decision is actually a win for Nestle, and the company continues to face ongoing scrutiny and criticism regarding its efforts to combat child labor in its cocoa supply chain. So, I mean, this is what I want you to think, what I would like our viewers to have sink in their heads about Nestle. If you are willing to exploit poor little Black and brown children who are just trying to make sure that their families can survive, if you are willing to go in and I use this word, no offense to anybody who's been assaulted, when you feel that it's okay for you to go in and rape the motherland, what do you care about people in America who have access to fresh, affordable, clean drinking water and sanitation?
The Supreme Court literally let Nestle go around and dry up aquifers in Black and brown communities.
Exactly. And that brings us to the second part. There is a lawsuit against Poland Spring, particularly that brand, but we want you to boycott Nestle in its entirety. Candies, all their drinking waters, fancy drinking waters, plain drinking waters. You know, if the wrapper on the Nestle candy bar, if you can boycott that as well. Poland Springs has a class action lawsuit going on in the United States District Court and for the District Court of Connecticut. And the lawsuit alleges that Nestlé Waters North America has been falsely marketing Poland Springs bottled water as 100% natural spring water when it doesn't meet the legal definition of spring water.
They lie. These corporations lie. And that's considered like one of their top,
top
expensive
brands. One of their top brands, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, these both of these topics are about corporate greed, yes. About ecocide, about not caring about humanity, and all of these things. So it's really important that we let folks know that Absolutely. We're not going to stand idly by and allow this to happen. That we're going to come together and we're going to make sure that our voices are heard and that we stop them. Yeah. From community meeting to direct action to going to city council to calling your lawmakers, it's going to take everybody. The commodification Absolutely. Of water is the worst thing that we ever allowed to happen to us. That's it. Thank you for always going down this journey with me, Nicole.
Absolutely.
It means a lot to me every week to be able to come on the show with you and share these things with folks so that we can keep people abreast. And right now we need a water and a peace movement, a global water protection, protect the water and all of these wars and genocides. And water has to do with all of those too. We'll talk about Absolutely. That at a different time. But
Absolutely.
Until next time, my friends, take care of each other. I hope to see you in the streets and try to stay afloat.
Bye.